Hi, my name is Johnny Sekulich and my student number is 11715588, and this is my assignment for critical reflection in subject JST 123. I shall begin. History does show us that contact between Indigenous Australian people and British invaders completely eroded the fundamental aspects of cultural diversity. It's a lot of dreaming, kinship, relationship to land and law has been lost. Since the occupation, the traditional lines of connection were cut off. Government policies of dispossession, protectionism, segregation, assimilation, separation were all introduced to control Indigenous Australian people and nations. See reference Bringing Them Home report. Near the end of the last century, a Royal Commission was established to investigate the cause of 99 deaths in custody. The findings were significant. Aboriginality played a significant and dominant role in them being in custody and dying in custody. Out of the 339 recommendations in the deaths in custody, none have been fully implemented and only a few implemented in part. See reference Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody. Closing the annual report started from Closing the Gap annual report started from 2008. It aimed to improve outcomes for Indigenous Australian people. Yet out of 7 initiatives, none have been fully implemented. See reference Closing the Gap report. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Women's Task Force on Violence report was handed down to reduce violence in Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities and looked at ways to address underlying spiritual and economic disadvantage. The recommendations of safety and reduction of violence have not entirely been met. See reference Queensland Government Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Women's Task Force on Violence report. Why are policies still on foot? Why is there still an overrepresentation of Indigenous Australians in criminal justice system? One major item that I have learnt from this course is that there is a human tragedy within Australia. It seems to me that there is a cycle of policy renewal and change that has rarely resulted in meaningful change on the ground. Far too many reports, reviews and inquiries by royal commissions, parliament committees, government agencies, human rights, equal opportunity commissions, respected United Nations bodies, all have been consistently ignored by successive governments. While too many of Indigenous Australians continue to experience trauma and unrest in their communities. I will totally say that this is a neo-colonialism at work. What I have learned from this course has given me the experience and tools to understand humanity and ways to implicate it. I intend to uphold a recommendation that was outlined in the Aboriginal deaths in custody. It is that judicial officers in contact with Aboriginal people be encouraged to participate in an appropriate training and development program on historic and social issues. It also recommended that judicial officers discuss with the members of the community in an informal way so to improve cross-cultural understanding. See reference Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody. To create positive principles, I will commit to broaden knowledge of the culture, understand the various cultural groups and nations that we serve, create planning and policies with positive principles of cultural competence, commit to training, understanding and cultural different practices. Engagement of local communities is a must. See reference Rob Bransing and Keith McConchie, Introduction to Cultural Competence. The Australian Law Reform Commission mentions a policy about self-determination, that the policy has been based on the fundamental right of Aboriginal people to retain their racial identity and traditional lifestyle, and has encouraged Aboriginal participation in local community governments. See reference Australian Law Reform Commission changing policies towards Aboriginal people. From all this, there is a real opportunity to get it right. I believe naming a task force of leaders that are highly respected from the Indigenous Australian community, from policing to politics from all sides. A real headway needs to be made, not just lip service. A real innovative effort of statesmanship and real hard work to make real progress with the Indigenous Australian people, one that needs to see closure between the people. The Indigenous community has to come to the table and say, we are interested. We live in peace. We want control of our young men, and we want them to understand that it does matter. And the non-Indigenous community has to say, we don't treat them fairly. We do look at them strangely. We do walk across the street rather than walk next to them. A real conversation with this in mind will be a big point in history. The nation will be better for it. Thank you.